Hello, Liberty Spenders. We're so pumped to have with us today Dr. Ted Baehr with Movieguide.
It's great to be with you.
Yes.
This is fun. I love the picture behind us.
Yes, I know.
You're the most photogenic couple I've seen in a long time, since at least yesterday. So.
Yes. Kristen will tell you she had a lot of drama when we had to do that. We had to stand and pose. It took about an hour to take all those pictures.
Well, you know, Johnny Depp, it took him about 4 hours to put the pirate's costume on and about 4 hours to take it off.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're not in Hollywood. It would be hours and hours.
Yes. At least I'm not one of those people. I don't have to wear one of those get-ups that they do for the CGI with the cameras in your face. I was listening to some of the Marvel actors talk about how awkward and weird that is to wear those unitards.
Well, it's getting easier.
Yeah.
You know that because they now have the new MGM Paramount Studios that are made so that you don't have to use the CGI. You can do a whole nother system. But anyway, we don't need to talk about that.
Oh, that sounds interesting. But for the uninitiated, for somebody who's listening to the podcast, tell them a little bit about Movieguide so they know who we're talking to.
Well, I gave you a book that you put over there. It's my father and mother were movie stars. He started starring in movies in 1926. So I've been in the movie industry for 100 years. The whole family's been in the movie industry. My father's real name was Ted Baehr, but he graduated from Dartmouth. It wasn't Wesleyan. He graduated from Dartmouth in 1929. He worked for Curtis Flying Service. They went bankrupt. You know, it was the Great Depression.
Yes.
And then he worked for a bank, and they went bankrupt. So he was walking along the streets of New York, and John Robert Powers saw him and said, "Ted, you're a good-looking guy. I'll get you a job." And he got him a job at Warner Brothers. So I grew up in the entertainment industry, but I was not a Christian.
Yeah.
They dabbled in a lot of religions at that time. And my mother died when I was 14, so whatever God was, I was angry about it.
Yeah.
And finally, when I was 28, a woman had an interest in my father. She had come to Christ through Billy Graham at the Miracle in the Garden, and she took him to Christian events. He took me to protect him. And this is a long way to tell you the story about
No, I love
Movieguide.
it, though.
So I'd keep walking out and say, "These people are crazy." And then she said, "Why don't you read the Bible?" And after months, I said, "Okay, I'll read the short part, the New Testament."
Yeah, right.
And I'd gone to Dartmouth and Cambridge and University of Bordeaux and Toulouse, and I got 800 in my math college boards and 800 in my French and blah, and, graduate. So I thought, I'm too intellectual for this book. And Jesus sees me. Jesus saved me. I didn't want it. He saved me against my will.
Right.
He changed my whole life. I got married to my wife a week later. We had 4 children. Now I have 18 grandchildren. But since I'd grown up in the industry and before I came to Christ, I put together the financing. I didn't put my own money in it for 5 feature films, which launched a company that eventually bought MGM. And they made a lot of money.
Yeah.
But some of them were not good. So I said, how can we redeem the media? God immediately got my heart, said, you got to redeem the media. And I heard the story of the old Protestant film office. George Heinrich, who'd been head of it, gave me all his files. And they changed and cleaned up Hollywood, the Catholic Film Office, the Jewish Defense League, and the Protestant Film Office. In the 30s and the 20s, movies were very debauched. Eddie Lamar, who's famous, her first movie was 13 minutes of sex and nudity. Don't tell anybody at Wesleyan this.
Yeah.
And the first Barbara Steinbeck movie, she was a little girl and she was being prostituted to pay her father's debts. So the churches got together to change Hollywood, and they did it by saying, you've got a lot of empty seats. How many empty seats do you want in the theater? Because we can fill those seats if you do good movies. So what we do is we reinstituted that. We look at what movies do well. When we started Movieguide, there was only one movie with positive Christian content, Trip to Bountiful. We analyze every movie in terms of all this Wesleyan criteria, ontology, epistemology, semantics, and to make it brief, we look at 150 criteria, and we say this is what does better at the box office. So, for instance, last year, one of our movies, and I'll get back to the change that's taken place, one of the movies we nominated did $1 $2 billion, $100 million at the box office. The guy who produced it was a Christian. The guy who wrote it was a Christian. The person who directed it was a Christian. And the Academy Award-winning movie did only $36 million compared to $2 billion. So what we've seen, we just did our big gala in Hollywood, and it's going to be on GAC, Great American Family Channel, on March 5th. What we've seen is you've gone from one movie, Trip to Bountiful, where a girl is going back to her home in Bountiful, Texas, and reading the Bible, and the guy probably trying to pick her up, asks him what she's reading, and she gives him the gospel, to now, last year there were 400 movies on TV about Christ, including, Hallmark has come back to Sense and Sensibility, the Great American, but Lifetime, movie companies that you wouldn't expect. And there were 4 movies like Light of the World and King of Kings that were explicitly gospel. And these weren't little people. I mean, Light of the World, I think, starred Pierce Brosnan, Oscar Isaac, Uma Thurman, some of the biggest names in Hollywood. But what we're seeing is a tremendous change. And most of that change, if you ever came to our gala, which you're invited to as press, the studio heads come to find out how can we make money in the entertainment industry. And we show them how to do that, how to make money. And then I train people, like Kristen's father should come and take my class. In 5 days, we train him how to make money. Or a guy who just met with me. So let me give you an example.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, the #1 movie on Netflix for 9 weeks, my staff said, you've got to see it. It's so Christian. So I saw it, and the producer had taken my class a couple of years before. And then the next year, a guy took my class who spent 17 years trying to make a movie, and I showed him what to do. He rewrote his script. Ron Howard gave him a 2-picture deal, and his movie is still #1 on MGM+. So I show people how to succeed. If you don't know how to succeed, you're not going to make it. So I show people how to succeed.
Yeah, that's really transformational. And you got at one of the questions I wanted to ask. Since you've been in the industry for so long, would you say that Hollywood has trended more faith-friendly or less faith-friendly? What do you think the trend line is?
Well, I mean, it's gone from one movie with positive evangelical Christian content to over 400. So I guess it's changed dramatically. And if you look at the top movies, the last year or the year before, they're full of Christian content. Did you see Paddington in Peru?
I did not.
Okay, it's all Christian content. If that's a friend's son, David Heyman, who did Harry Potter, etc. But this one is just explicitly Christian, and the message is the father's looking for El Dorado, for gold. At the end, he rejects gold. He says his daughter, his family is everything to him. It's pro-family, pro-Jesus, talks about Jesus. And there were so many movies like that last year that were big movies that talked about Jesus. Fantastic Four is the most pro-life movie ever made. Did you see it?
Yes, we did.
And so she stands outside and she said, "This is my son Franklin, and I want to tell you, I'm not going to sacrifice my son for the world, and I'm not going to sacrifice you." So, this is a pro-life speech that the biggest movie on anti-trafficking was Taken. So a lot of Hollywood movies are doing the job that Christians want to do, and they need to learn how to make them so that they can make those movies. And a lot of the people making them are people that we've known for years. We've taught them. We've worked with them. And so watch the Great American Family Channel on March 5th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and you'll see a lot of people from Hollywood talking about what happened.
Yeah, I remember seeing my friend Rick is working for you guys now and was talking about all of the, Hollywood people who come to your event, which is truly exceptional, right? Because the perception that a faith-based award show might be just Kevin Sorbo.
That's it. When I've been in the industry a long time.
Yeah.
When I came to Christ, I went to a theological cemetery in New York. Oh, it's a seminary, not a cemetery. And when I said they owned the rights to The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, so we got on CBS, and we had 37 million people. We won an Emmy Award. And I worked with a lot of people that are still good friends of mine who are Christian for The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It is C.S. Lewis's stepson was the godfather of my daughter-in-law, godfather of my first granddaughter, and his son is a good friend of mine. So there have always been a lot of Christians. But when I told the seminary, I'm sorry. When I told them I was going to go to Hollywood, they said, you can't do that. That's an evil place. Well, my son was working for Wycliffe, and they stationed him in a little tribe of 600 people that had been cannibals.
Yeah.
What place on earth is too far for the gospel? I was saved by grace out of the entertainment industry, out of producing movies, out of spending money on movies. What place is too far?
Right.
And these are people that need Jesus. Do we really dislike people needing Jesus?
Right.
And probably they need him more than your next door neighbor who goes to church on Sunday, lies to his wife on Mondays, cheats on his income tax on Tuesday, and then goes to church on Sunday.
Yeah.
So we're not legalists. We're not Pharisees. We're not Sadducees. We're Christians. We believe in God.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so does Movieguide set up? Is it more as a charity? Is there a way for people to support your work?
It's a nonprofit, 501c3. We reach a lot of families come to Movieguide, about 90 million, but very few give because they think it's just a movie review service. So yes, you go to movieguide.org. There's a big donate button there, and please help us. Help us to continue.
Yeah, that's important work. Absolutely. One theme that we've been exploring, and of course you're our first interview for the 3 days, but one theme we'll be exploring with other people is collaboration, how much that people can do when they do it together instead of by themselves. And of course, I can only imagine in Hollywood and in movie making, nothing gets made by yourself, right? It takes a lot of people working on a project. What have you learned about collaborations and partnering with people in the years at Movieguide and with the work you're doing?
Remember, I grew up in the industry.
Yeah.
But, I was talking to a man who wants to be a filmmaker downstairs here at the convention where we are. And most Christians think it's a sole venture. But let's say a friend of mine produced Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Right.
1 and 2. And there were 18,000 people working on it. And then another friend of mine produced Dune. There are all these thousands of people. And what I tell Christians in the class is one of the problems that you have is you're trying to hold on to your story. And you want to hold on so tight. It's like holding water. You open your hand and the water's gone because you held it too tight. Movie industry, you got to cup your hand and trust God. Trust God that he's going to help it. And every person who's working on it, 18,000, it's like a little army. You got to trust them. The costume person, for Dune, think of all the people you have to trust. Even the people moving the sand, you got to trust them.
Right.
And you got to rely on God to be, and he's a Christian and he's a conservative and he wears a mega hat to productions. There are a lot of good people in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So, first place, we've got to stop being antagonistic toward people who need Christ. And the second place is it is cooperative.
Yeah.
It's a place where you work with people and you have to learn to love people, to work with them and forgive people. They make mistakes all the time.
Right.
I just did on something I said, but I corrected it.
Is there a mistake that people who want to get into the industry that people make most frequently?
You're not going to want to hear this. Really. Most Christians, I think, God bless them because I love them. And I try to teach them when they take the class. I say the biggest problem Christians have is pride. Why? Because they're afraid of getting turned down and their pride is going to be hurt. Never be afraid of being turned down. If you're,
right.
If you know God, Joseph could go to prison and not be afraid of being turned down.
Right.
You can do incredible things. All you have to do is submit an application. Your chances go up. So I was talking to somebody today. He said, I can't do this to go talk to an. I'll show you how to do it. I'll get you in. We'll talk to some of the people. It's not hard. These are just human beings. So you've got to trust them and trust God to come through and let your pride go. If somebody tells you that script isn't good enough, Amadeus, do you remember that movie?
Yes.
I think it had 47 drafts. Shakespeare, I show in my class all the drafts that Shakespeare did of Romeo and Juliet and Macbeth and Hamlet, one draft after another. Writing is rewriting. And, first place, Plato said that every artist, great artist, needs a critic because the critic tells him you got to get better.
Right.
That draft is not good enough. You got to go better. But, then I have a slide that I show from all the verses in the Bible that said this is good for correcting, reproofing, teaching. Correction is throughout the Bible, that we're supposed to run the race, that we're supposed to train, that we're supposed to get better. We can't be afraid of writing and rewriting. We can't be afraid of that. We just have to knuckle down and do it, and it's a full-time job.
Yeah, absolutely. I can only imagine.
Which is a great movie, and the second one is even better.
Yeah. We were also thinking about and sort of picturing this from the outside. Hopefully this question is framed right. How would you say influence really moves in Hollywood? What motivates it? What's the big mover for
money?
Folks? Yeah.
Money. I mean, now you've got Amazon supporting John Irwin and Lionsgate supporting Andy Irwin. Look, Hollywood has to make money.
Right.
Warner Brothers has 60,000 employees. That's why they're up for sale to Paramount or whoever else, Netflix. And we talked to Ted Sarandos before that. So what we did is Hollywood makes movies for different people groups to make money.
Yeah.
So they make movies for blacks. And if Tyler Perry can make $100 million, they're making money. They make movies for Hispanics. My wife was Argentine. They make movies for different, and she hated the word Hispanics.
Yeah.
But she's, she grew up speaking Spanish. So it just depends upon, what we said to them is every week there's between 120 and 160 million people who go to church. And there are only between 7 and 15 million people who go to movies. This is a big audience. You got to make movies for this audience. I gave you a report that gives all of that. So why not just decide that we're going to make movies so we've convinced them that this is an audience? Now, I'd like them to say that all their movies are going to be like that, but they're going to still make movies for boys who are curious about the opposites, unfortunately, and they're still going to make movies for other things. But we want them to make more and more movies for the family and for people of faith.
Yeah. Chris and I were actually talking to somebody who's who came out of recently producing more secular movies, but I think became a Christian in the last, decade or something.
Who was that?
What was his name? Who was the guy we were talking to recently who's working with Doc Abbott? Man, he produced Friends and Mad About You, but he said they learned the same thing.
Yeah.
People are asking, why aren't folks going to movies these days? Well, because 60% of the country is Christian in some fashion, and they're not making anything for these people.
Right. And it's even higher now because there's big revival breaking in. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Someone wanted to meaningfully impact Hollywood and in the world of media. What kind of relationships do they need to make it happen?
I have a friend that I brought the theologians in for Prince of Egypt, for Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was one of the heads of Disney and then started DreamWorks. And I went to the party for the owner of Fox, the head of Fox, Jim Giannopoulos, who's a Greek Orthodox. And Jeffrey was leaving at about 8:30. And I said, Jeffrey, what are you doing? He said, look, this isn't where the movie industry is. I go to bed at 9 and I get up at 4 to follow the stock market. The people who are succeeding in Hollywood are not in the relationship business. They're in the movie business.
Right.
They're making widgets, gadgets, cars. Those movies are a job. If they're off gallivanting, establishing relationships, then they're not doing anything for learning the job. So you got to learn the craft and practice the craft.
Yep.
It's just like, making a Rolls Royce or something else. You got to be careful.
Yeah. Absolutely. I know you talked about the trajectory since you started with this and the fact that there are so many more Christian movies. What's other big changes you've seen happen in Hollywood in the last couple of decades?
Okay, well, I'm always going to give you a historical perspective.
Yes.
In the 1890s, almost everybody who started in the film industry, 1890s, there were a lot of movies. There was one man called the man who invented Hollywood. who did Westerns. He did science fiction. He did them on location. He did one Western on location in the Rocky Mountains. And he had a tribe of Indians that he paid to jump over the camera, and the cameraman thought he was going to die. So a lot of the things that we think are unique today, and he was a Christian. Now, some of them are Catholic. So, we've got to put up with a lot of different variations of Christianity. I don't know whether any of them went to Wesleyan, but anyway. But then in the 1915, the whole industry changed. Mm-hmm. And I can go through the reasons, the technical reasons why it changed, but a lot of the Nickelodeon owners in New York came out to L.A. and they started another industry, and movies became very debauched. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the 20s, in 1929, three men, Joseph Breen, Martin Quigley, and Daniel Day Lord, established the first church film office, mm-hmm. and within 3 years they cleaned up movies, and movies became clean until those offices, the Protestant Film Commission, the Jewish Defense League, and the Catholic Legion of Decency, shut down in the 60s. Catholic Legion moved to New York in 1959. The Protestant Film Commission shut down in 1965. So at that point, in 1965, you had 100% family films. Mm-hmm. 100.
Yeah.
You had Sound of Music. Greatest story ever told about Jesus. And within 3 years, the head of Paramount Pictures, who was Jewish, said, if you take the salt from the meat's going to rot. Mm-hmm. Within 3 years, you went from 100% family films with a lot of Christian content to 82% R-rated films. Mm. Why did you go from 100%? Because the church left Hollywood. Mm-hmm. There are countries that the church has left, like Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka was 90% church. Now, does that mean everybody believed in 1952? But when the British left, it then started fighting between the Sinhalese and the mm-hmm. Tamils. They went back to to Buddhism and Islam and etc. They killing each other because the church left. Mm-hmm. So why would the church leave? Can you explain this to me?
Yeah.
I'd like to know, one, why the church doesn't see it as a mission field. Uh-huh. Two, why they don't take the time to learn what the industry is about. Mm-hmm. Just like if you go overseas, because my son was working for Wycliffe, you learn the language of film. Mm-hmm. And number three, don't abandon the mission field. These mm-hmm. people need you.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to make sure we end a little bit with people understanding how they can follow your work. So let's repeat that. They can go to movieguide.org.
Movieguide.org. Go watch the gala. We'll find out all the information at movieguide.org. We love you. We want to help you. We're here to help you. Our job is to help families teach their kids to be media wise, to choose the good, reject the bad. So we're here to help you.
Yeah, and I hope we get this out in time, but March 5th is when the gala is going to air.
Absolutely.
And
I hope you get it out in time.
Yes. Well, I'd love to. We got to edit it all, make it look pretty. I got to, make my face look great, but it'll be wonderful to have it. I appreciate you being on the show. This has been great. And I've learned a lot even in the 20 minutes we've done this. So this has been great. Thank you so much.
Remember what they used to do when my father was on TV in the early 50s? Why they call it the green room?
No.
Because you had to put green on your face because it was black and white.
So.
God
Thank you
bless.
so much. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.